Welcome back to Doc's Hot Shop and Forge. So, as some of you may remember from a couple of weeks back, I did a 400km Mercy Dash to save a old 106lb anvil from the scrap bin. This anvil has an excellent face for being 118 odd years old. Geez, I hope I look half as good when I get that age. And still has great rebound. So the anvil is quite a sound anvil. It's only got a few minor nicks to it. The edges are good. For being 118 years old, she's in great shape. This anvil will become the anvil for my charcoal forge when I finish building that out of an old harrow blade whilst I'm expanding the workshop. The way I intend to mount this anvil is not that dissimilar to how I've mounted my existing anvil, but with a couple of little tweaks that I've picked up along the way. So I'm going to do a couple of different things. The first being that it's going to have a composite stump made out of 5 pieces of hardwood stair tread. It'll have a more streamlined tie-down system, so it doesn't stick out quite as far as the eye bolts do on my existing one. I've caught my knees on those a couple of times now. And I'll be bedding the anvil on a layer of silicone caulk, just to help deaden the ring out a little bit more for ease of recording. From a historical perspective, the use of caulking or other waterproofing materials was quite common, with texts from the 1800s suggesting the use of tar-soaked card or rag under the cleated down anvil to reduce the ring in quote-unquote modern brick-walled smithies. Now, before we start cutting up the stair treads to length, let's first figure out how long they need to be to get the anvil face at the correct height. And for that, I'm going to demonstrate in a moment the correct stance and hammer at the end of swing and all that. So the correct stance at an anvil: 1 foot forwards, broad, your feet about a shoulder's width apart, and when you're striking, you want your elbow at full extension or as close to it as you can get, given the thickness of your working stock. So this anvil is set about 1 inch up from where it should be. That's because I've got back problems, but that's a side issue. And the correct grip is with these last fingers loose. You want most of the holding in your index and your thumb. You want it loose so it can swing through. Otherwise you will end up wrecking your elbow. So essentially you should be able to work like that. That should be adequate. Now, if you're more comfortable holding with all of them, you have to concentrate on keeping these fingers loose, because the reflex is to tighten up. And that's what's going to wreck your elbow. That and excessive use of the muscles that bend your wrist back. So you want to end up as close to that. So for the other anvil, that falls about 1 inch lower. So let's go measure that up. So for those wanting some numbers for the new anvil stand build, the actual height of the anvil is 235mm or 9 1/4 inches, giving an actual height for the timber of 555mm or 22 inches. I will go over the mounting hardware and demonstrate the impact on noise as we go. So let's start cutting up materials. So being old stair treads, got to cut off a little bit at the ends because there's a bit of damage from how they were mounted. So I've marked this one up, so I'll get those trimmed up. So let's begin laying out where we want the cross bolts to go, because we've got to tie this pile back together again somehow. That puts the center of the top strapping band 65 millimeters below this surface. So that is the center line of the top band. Now, how far in do we want those cross bolts? We have 270 millimeters to play with. We might arbitrarily go with 70. Because that also gives us a little more clearance for the bolts that come up, because they'll be coming up about there. Let's lay out the steel. Now for this bit, because these are post bolts, I'm going to use the head to very quickly square up that. Alright, so that's the critical one. We've got that set up. So this is the ring of an unmounted anvil. Unmounted with a magnet under the horn. Little or no change. So as we progress with mounting the anvil from this point onwards, I'm going to keep retesting that until it's mounted on the silicon footing, and you'll get to an idea of what the appropriate has an effect on noise and rebound. I mean, the rebound is already pretty good, considering this anvil is 118 years old. So this is just snug down to the wood. With the magnet, no perceptible. So in a minute I'm going to lay down the bed of silicon and then snug it down onto the washers, about a millimeter uniform layer, and then we'll do this again, and then we'll leave it for 24 hours to cure. Now for this I'm using a generic, highly flexible indoor-outdoor silicone sealant. This one happens to be clear, just happened to be what was available at the hardware store when I was in there. I like the outline for the anvil is expect this one is probably green tile tube. As a release agent, I'm going to apply a little bit of big force to the base of the anvil, just so that I can take it off in the future. That's what a whole tube of silicon looks like. Now, the key to getting a uniform layer, a couple of washers down, and then you put the anvil on top of those. So without tightening it down, alright, let's tighten this puppy down. And sounds pretty dead, doesn't it? And that's how you mount an anvil. Will not move. Ideally the stump should be sunk a couple of feet into the ground, but if, like your most modern smiths, you're stuck with concrete floors and not purpose-built smithy, this will work, and it will work well. The noise deadening properties of silicone is pretty amazing, and obliviates the need for chains and magnets. And if you really need to, you can move it around your workshop. Now that we have the anvil mounted, we can see just how much difference a secure tie-down system and proper bedding of the anvil base makes. It really dampens out the ring, doesn't affect rebound. I'll be revisiting this in about a week or so, once the silicone's had a chance to cure. You can see just if there's any changes. I expect that the coupling, so noise reduction, will actually be improved. This anvil will be paired up with the charcoal forge that I'm building. Along with that forge, I'm also setting up my post vise, so look out for videos on the build of the forge and the mounting of the post vise. And just generally, I'm catching up on my backlog of orders due to the recent fire ban. So there's a lot happening. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up. Feel free to share on social media, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. We're coming up on 500 subscribers. We'll be running a small giveaway. Haven't quite decided on what that's going to be yet, but it'll be something once we get to that milestone. So, get out to your shop, have fun, but stay safe, and I'll catch you for the next one.